I didn't really need the job anymore. So it was kind of just, it was time to get rid of it. In fact, it was in my way. It
Yeah.
was always, my boss was always asking me, when am I going to quit? And, I told him when it got in my way for my real estate business, but in reality, it was in my way for a long time.
Hello and welcome to Pillars of Wealth Creation, where we talk about creating financial success with a special focus on business and real estate. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. Now, let's get to it. Are you ready to start investing in real estate today but don't know where to start? Sometimes investing can seem way too complicated, but it actually couldn't be any easier than with homeinvest.com. You know the co-founder and my friend Nate Armstrong. He appeared on episode 20, and if you haven't heard it, go back and listen to it, episode number 20. Home Invest is a company that allows you to invest in turnkey real estate. Their goal is to build powerful investment tools that make real estate investing accessible to everyone. They have contractors and property managers available for you with the click of your mouse. While other real estate agents can only offer a property, Home Invest brings you a full turnkey package that allows you to diversify your investments, earn passive income, and start building equity in properties. Their simple, intuitive design allows newcomers and experienced investors alike to hit the ground running and to be able to choose the properties when they want and where they want. View easy to understand charts and data to allow you to buy in only a few clicks or just a simple phone call. With Home Invest, you'll be building your portfolio as quickly or as slowly as you would like. And right now, Home Invest is giving our listeners, Pillar of Wealth Creation listeners, a free course on how to finally win in real estate investing. So go to homeinvest.com/pillars. That's homeinvest.com/pillars to claim your free course today. Hello and welcome to Pillars of Wealth Creation. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer, and with me today is Jeff Greenberg. Jeff, how you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, Todd.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show and spending some time with us. So a little bit about Jeff. He's got an MBA. MBA has over 40 years experience in management, staff supervision, development, and training. He's proposed, implemented, and supervised multi-million-dollar budgets for government agencies as well as private and public organizations. And since 2007, Jeff has been investing in multifamily and student housing assets in various markets throughout the United States. And it sounds like Jeff kind of does it all, does the underwriting, acquisitions, investor relationships, all that kind of stuff, as well as asset management and business development stuff. Jeff is currently the CEO and managing member of Synergetic Investment Group, LLC. And you've got projects valued over $30 million, consisting of over 800 units. So with that, Jeff, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit more about your background and what you got going on today?
Well, I think you've got most of my background there as far as what I've been doing. We've been investing in mostly multifamily, but now more student housing for the last 10 years, I guess, almost 11 years now. But right now we're looking for value add properties, and for the most part, we're finding more in the way of student housing value add. So most of our portfolio right now is student housing properties.
So Jeff, why student housing, and what's the difference between student and just market rate?
Well, the main thing on student housing, one, you're collecting more rent. The kids are paying more. In some instances, we're getting rents by the bed as opposed to by the unit. But also, it's a special area as far as management and marketing. And because we're looking for distressed assets, it seems that we're finding more distressed assets in the student housing area. We have the last two properties we got were from owners that have management that weren't very proficient in student housing, and that's why they were distressed. So it just worked out that way, that we were finding these that were in distress, and since we know that market, able to go in and resolve those issues.
So what size of city are you looking at, or is it based on the college size? Where is your focus? Are you looking at major, universities? You're looking at the small ones, or what are you looking at?
We're mainly looking at the bigger ones, but we will look at smaller markets. We do want properties that we can get within a couple miles of the universities. Mainly, those are the best candidates for the student housing. But we are looking around. Mainly, we are looking in the southeast. Even though we did just pick up a property in Arizona, which is closer to my home in California, which is kind of nice. But we do like the Atlanta, South Carolina, down in the South area, Louisiana, in that area as well.
What attracts you to that area?
It just seems that we're finding properties out there. They seem to be doing pretty well, especially outside of the Atlanta market.
Sure.
There'll be a lot of jobs coming in, a lot of activity. The universities seem to be doing well, and that's a key thing, is knowing what's not as much what's going on in the market itself as what's going on with that university.
Yeah.
How healthy is that university? What's their student population? What's the population of their on-site apartments? So how many students are going to have to be off campus? So we want to look at that and see what the potential renters are going to be, because they can't fit into the on-site. And also, for the most part, once kids are past freshmen, they don't want to be on site. They would rather be off site. And so we want to see, what numbers of potential renters we would have.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. That, how do you look at a market? Because it's obviously, when you're looking at just a market for market rate apartments, you're looking at employment and job growth and all that kind of stuff. I'm assuming you like to see that in the city, but you also, like, as you said, you like to see the university growth as well.
Yeah, and that's and the one that I've had the longest, which is out in Ohio, it happens to be in a 20,000 population city, but the thing is 18,000 of those are students. So there's not much of a city besides the university, and I, for one, do not like single employer cities, but this university has been there for over 200 years. So the university's not going anywhere. So I feel pretty comfortable that it's going to continue, and it is continuing to grow.
Yeah.
As well as the university having a multi-year $40 million, project going on as they're improving the university.
So you're dealing with student rentals. So you've got rowdy students that are partying and destroying your apartment buildings. Is that right?
Well, I guess we've all watched Animal House. We all
been a part of Animal House.
What's that?
Or some of us have been a part of Animal House.
Oh, okay. Some of them. The funny part of it is I have not seen it. I've had my Ohio property is the one I've had the longest, which we're now going on 3 years, and we've seen very little damage. Of course, we've had maybe cabinet doors that were leaned on and broken off, or shot glasses and bottle caps in the garbage disposal. We've had wine spills on the carpeting, but most of it, for the most part, has been minor. I don't know if we're just knocking on wood and been lucky, but we've had very little damage beyond what you're going to see in a typical multifamily property. And the thing is we're getting more money, and we're getting more higher deposits than we typically would. So very seldom does the deposits not cover those costs, and we do bill back for any damage that was caused by the students, and it wasn't just normal, wear and tear type of stuff.
Are you having parents co-sign?
Yes, we are.
Yeah. So one of the things I've noticed with my student rentals is that I get less damage on my properties than I do on a typical house or typical apartment with the student rentals. And then I've seen it several times where the kids actually do some damage, and I've emailed the kids along with the parents and say, hey, there's, or we've emailed them and said, there's damage on this property. Here's what it is. It's going to cost this much. And then the parent shows up and actually does all the work and fixes it themselves. And so it seems like the parents kind of take care of a lot of the problems themselves if you have them as part of the lease. So definitely.
Yeah, we haven't seen that yet. But the biggest expense that we see in with the student housing is the turnover.
Yeah.
And depending on which property that we're talking about, what the turnover is. And so if you can keep the turnover costs down, that's the major thing. But we budget for that. And with the additional revenues, it covers that.
Is your typical student staying 1 year, or they stay in 2 years?
It depends on which property we're talking about.
Sure.
In my Ohio property, which is basically an upper middle class demographics on the students, they move around each year. I do have some carryovers, but a lot of them are going to go to a different property, or maybe they don't want to be with that group anymore. So it seems that there's more turnover there. The Georgia property and my Tucson property, we haven't had for a year yet, so it's hard to tell. But I have the feeling by the pre-leases that there's going to be more stability there and less changeover.
Yeah, that's nice. And most of my student housing stuff is single families or duplexes, and I seem to have 2 to 3 years as a typical tenant, but really never more than that. So, okay, well let's talk about kind of how'd you get into the business, because it sounds like you've got 40 years of experience in management and staff supervision and all that kind of stuff. Why multifamily? What got you into the business? Where was that mind shift, I guess? Where'd that come from?
Well, about 12 years ago, I guess it was, somewhere around there, where I realized that my retirement just wasn't going to do it. That all the money that I'd been socking away, and the whole corporate story. I know there's a lot of people into that, and of course, reading Rich Dad Poor Dad kind of turned the light on, and I started to get into single family homes. I was doing REOs, bank-owned properties, and that was in probably about 2006, which is when the banks were not really letting go of properties and values were still going down. And when I saw how slow the banks were about responding to me, and it was like catching a falling knife. You just couldn't do it with the single families. Prices were going down too fast. And that's when I was introduced to someone doing multifamily, and thought, hey, that looked a lot more interesting, and I got excited about that I would be able to put money into my education, but as far as doing the deals, I was able to raise money from other people, and so that kind of got me started on that.
So did you start raising money right from the start then?
First property we did was a syndicated deal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, eh, so it was this basically this shift from I'm working this job, likely you're getting paid well, but you go, but geez, I'm not going to be able to retire and be where I want to be. Is that that's kind of
Absolutely.
what
And I also was going through a divorce in 2008, and
okay.
then saw my personal residence disappear along with my ex-wife. What I had left was my retirement, and I said, "Hey, I'm never retiring on that." So that's where I decided it was time to move on, and I kept the job for a while, but I just worked the real estate business on the side, and then eventually retired from that and continue on with the real estate.
Now, when you so you quit your job, how close to whether it would be an early retirement or retirement, how where were you in that phase?
Well, I quit my job last year,
You quit your job
so
last year. Okay.
so it's been just about, actually, in a couple of days will be about a year. I think at the end of April, I quit my job. Mainly, there was the
Yeah.
security of a paycheck, and it was also the security of health insurance and those kind of things that kept me in the job.
Sure.
And for a number of those years, I had a business partner that was doing it full time, and so I was able to lean heavily on her when we needed things. And then later on, when we broke up, I had some students that I was training that were doing a lot of the leg work for me, so that helped out. And then recently, I have a team that I've trained, and they're doing a lot of the leg work now. But I didn't really need the job anymore, so it was kind of just, it was time to get rid of it. In fact, it was in my way. It
Yeah.
was always, my boss was always asking me, when am I gonna quit? And I told him when it got in my way for my real estate business, but in reality, it was in my way for a long time.
Yeah.
And one day, I finally said, enough. I don't need the job anymore. I'm out of here.
Quitting now. Well, congratulations on that, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
So, what's one of your biggest failures or something that you learned from the most? So what was your biggest failure and how did you learn from it?
Biggest failure. There's a lot of mistakes I've made. I'm just trying to think. The first investment we went into, even though it was a profitable venture for my investors and everything went well and it was a good property, we underestimated things. We bought it in 2010. It was a 2007 build property. It was 20 units, and it was 100% occupied. And we thought, okay, yeah, we're going to go in and raise rents and start billing back the water, since they were already paying the electric. And when neither one of those really happened, it just didn't get the return that we had expected. Even though the investors got their preferred return, it wasn't very profitable for us. And at the end of the deal, when we sold it, we made very little money after working our tails off for what ended up being 6 years. So I wouldn't call it a failure. It was a lesson. It was an education.
Yeah.
Um, the only other, I'm trying to think of anything else. There was some properties that we walked away from that we probably could have done. And that was kind of one of the reasons why my partner and I ended up going our separate ways. We had some disagreements on going forward on certain properties. But I would say that most of my failures or mistakes, were pretty minor compared to what they could have been.
Yeah. I should have said mistakes because we don't fail, right? We make some mistakes, we learn from them and we move on.
Well, Robert Kiyosaki goes and says, fail faster, so you'll,
Yeah.
so you'll finally succeed. And I totally agree with that.
Yep, absolutely. So for someone that's new or in your position, where you were just, 12 years ago, that's trying to get to that next level, what's some advice that you would give them to get them to take that step or to get to where you are right now?
Well, the first thing you've got to do is invest in yourself, and that doesn't have to be money. It may be time, but you need to get educated, and if that means going to different seminars, you and I were talking at Joe's seminar in Denver. That was a great opportunity for people to learn and to network. But the other thing is finding someone that's doing what they want to do, and find a way to help that person out, see what they can do to help them. I believe strongly in a more of an apprenticeship type of program where you learn from someone that's been doing it and actually have the opportunity to have a hands-on situation where you're learning. But going to somebody, finding somebody and finding how you could help them. I get people approaching me all the time, say, "Hey, will you mentor me? Will you teach me? Will you do this?" And the whole thing is, what are you bringing to them? People, you and I are busy people, and if somebody can bring something to us, we're going to be a lot more likely to be able to spend time with them, to help them out and help them learn, help bring them up in the business. But they need to add value.
Yeah.
And that's the main thing is don't come to somebody totally clueless about the industry that you're trying to get into. Learn all you can, read as many books as you can, listen to podcasts, get yourself educated so you're at a starting point that you can start really learning. And that's my big thing, is someone coming to me totally clueless about anything about the business and expecting to learn and start from scratch. Start on your own, learn, listen to podcasts, read books, and then find somebody that's doing what you want to do.
Great. Yeah. Great advice. So Jeff, tell us, what are your goals moving forward? What do you envision yourself doing in the next, let's say, 10 years?
Well, the main thing is I'm developing my team. I have a team of people that have been trained by me and are working with me, and I would love to be able to expand and grow them as well up through the business. They're taking on new roles and responsibilities, and it's a great feeling to be able to work with these people and help to educate them, watch them grow. And as we're doing that, we're buying more properties. I don't have a high flying goal that of how much I want to control. I have my reasons why I'm in this business. I want to enjoy my family. I want to enjoy helping my kids out, traveling with my grandkids. So as far as a grandiose goal, I don't really have that. But right now I'm secure, and my expenses are covered, and I'm just enjoying bringing people along for the ride. And as we get more and more properties, we're all profiting from it.
Yeah, cool. I like it though. You don't always need to have this. Everybody thinks, goals need to be these big, massive, got to have $1 billion or whatever it is. But, you're doing very well, and you don't have those big, massive, whatever goals. I think sometimes people get too carried away with it. So,
yeah. And the thing is when I'm talking to investors, I'm telling them that, we're not under pressure to do a deal.
Achieve.
If we don't do a deal, we don't do a deal. So we have no pressure to bend our criteria or, to get into deals that we're not comfortable with. That, our criteria are important, especially in this market right now. which I believe we're very much on the high side. Nobody knows where, when it's going to turn. So we want to be safe. And that's the main thing is there's nothing pushing us into deals. We'd love to get some deals. We'd love to get some great opportunities, but we're under no pressure to do it.
Talk to us a little bit about that. You just mentioned your underwriting on how you're, being safe. And so what do you do to mitigate your risk of, potentially we are close to the top, or maybe we are at the top? What are you doing to mitigate that and, make sure that you and your investors are as protected as possible?
Well, the one thing is making sure that we're properly funded when we're doing a deal.
Yes.
Funds usually are the one of the biggest issues, or having sufficient funds can save you most of the time in real estate transactions. The other thing is if you're taking on debt, making sure that you're not over leveraging yourself, as well as putting enough time in there. We in the past have gotten 5-year loans, but now we're looking at 10-year, 12-year loans with the thought of getting out in 5 years. But I'd rather pay more for a 10-year loan and have that opportunity to sell down the road if we needed to, not be pressured that we're going to have to refinance in 5 years, not knowing what the environment's going to be.
Yeah.
The other thing is being aware of what's going on in the market, how well the market's doing in that particular area, and giving us enough margin. We are looking at, value add properties. We do want to see what's going on in the market, but for the most part, we do want, currently cash flowing properties. There are deals that we've looked at that are higher risk. My Georgia deal that we got, because of the higher risk, it was a 48% occupied property. We took on no debt. We paid cash for it, and that removed, a huge amount of burden off of us to worry about a debt service. We may refinance down the road, but currently, all we have to do is keep the lights on and, pay staffing costs, and that's about it. We don't have to worry about a debt service hanging over our head.
So even with no debt, you're able to get your investors' returns on that property?
Well, right now, because of this particular property that was 48% occupied, they were told they're not getting anything for a year anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
And it may be a little longer, but right now we've got a beautiful thing down the horizon, and we're at 100% pre-leased for August.
Nice.
48% occupied when we bought it a year ago, April.
Wow.
So it may be a little bit longer before they get their first returns, but it's looking fabulous at the moment.
Well, one thing that you're doing that I like, and I would say it's fairly recession resistant, is you're investing in student housing.
That's true.
And when we have a recession, I mean, unless it's a student recession, which I don't know if that there's been a university recession, but there's not nearly as affected, if affected at all.
Well, yeah, I've seen dips. I was looking at when I bought the Ohio property, we looked at it, and we're watching to see what happened, and they did lose some students. But typically, what happens is when a child is college age, the parents are going to do everything they can to get them into college.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because if they wait a year or so, it may not happen.
Right.
Okay. Once they go out and get a job or do something else, they may never go to college. So the parents are going to try. The other thing is a lot of times if people lose their jobs, they may go back to school.
They go back. Yeah.
They go back to see if they can change their career or something. So it is recession resilient, we call it. It's not recession proof, but it is a recession resilient. And that's another reason we like that niche.
Yeah. Well, cool. So what's what's a favorite book or a website that you like?
God, I'm always reading books. I just finished Kiyosaki's what is it? It's More Than Money, or
Okay.
yeah, that one. In fact, on my bike ride this morning, I finished listening to that one. I mean, that's got a lot of good stuff on it. Um, Podcasts, are my favorite. I'm always listening to something when I'm cycling or driving or whatever. But there's some great podcasts out there, including yours. But I listen to Joe's and Bigger Pockets, and one of my favorites is probably Old Capital, especially if you want to learn about the lending for multifamily. Old Capital is a great podcast.
Yep.
But that's mostly what I'm doing is listening to a lot of different podcasts.
Cool.
And great education in there.
Yeah, definitely. That's people now that are just getting into it, just trying to learn, they're spoiled compared to when I was trying to learn, and same with you. We didn't have podcasts and Audible and stuff like that. I mean, I've still got in my vehicle piles of CDs that you'd put in. I mean, there wasn't what we got right now. You couldn't just go find a book that easy, and now it's just so quick and easy.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, I agree. And people ask me how I got started, and a lot of it, I went through, the guru circuit kind of thing, and I invested in myself. I spent a lot of money. And people ask me, what they should do. And I typically, don't point that direction, even though it does work for some people, but it's probably a pretty expensive way to go, with some of these different gurus out there. But that's all I knew back then.
Yeah.
You're right. I didn't know anything about the podcast. I think Bigger Pockets was probably just starting up, at that time. Which I didn't know anything about. I went to a lot of local events, but nobody at the local events really were talking multifamily. Most of them were talking single family, and most of the events that I went to, somebody was up there trying to sell. So what I've done since then is I have two different meetups that I run. One of them, people I met from Bigger Pockets. Another one, it's been going since about 2003, where we do not allow any sales. We just do education. And it's kind of it's a pay it forward type of thing. We give out education. We talk about things without any anticipation that people are going to be giving back to us. But it's amazing what happens. Yeah. That you meet people and they want to get involved with you. And I've met, hundreds of people, through these different events that I've gone to. And, a lot of them are my investors now. But it's, you give and you never know what you're going to receive. It's not, that isn't the goal. It's just help people out and things happen.
That's a great quote there. You give and you never know what you'll receive. I like that.
Yeah, well, I think Zig Ziglar puts it better.
Yeah,
I think,
maybe.
I can't remember exactly what his quote is, but help as many people as possible get what they want, and you'll receive what you want.
Yeah, and it's so true. I mean, if you go in but you also have to have that mindset of you're not there for that. Mm-hmm. I think the people that have that mindset of they're for getting, you can just tell it just like breathes. I'm trying to get something from you.
Oh yeah.
So you put your guard up. I mean, anytime you talk to someone, I mean, you've been there before. As if somebody's talking to you, you just got your guard up the whole time because it's like, when's that line coming? When are you going to ask? When are you going to take from me without giving anything?
Send you to the back of the room to go buy their home study guide or their next boot camp.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You got to be real. You got to be real in this business. You and I had some great conversations while we were out in Denver. You be real and you do run an honest business. You're fair to your investors and true to your investors, and they're going to be, true to you.
Yeah.
And you never know where it's going to take you.
Absolutely. Well, last couple questions here. What's your definition to the secret of financial freedom?
My definition of the secret to financial freedom.
Yeah. So how do you create it, essentially?
Well, I mean, it's certainly not a secret, but
We're trying to break that secret.
well, I certainly think that there's many different areas of real estate that can bring you to financial freedom. As far as which part of real estate that you go into is going to depend on your resources as well as your interest, and what fits with you. It just so happens, I love commercial real estate, mainly multifamily and the student housing, just because there's a lot more zeros behind the numbers, rather than single family homes and small properties. But I think, the thing is drive, whatever it is that you're driven to do. There's people finding financial freedom in all different aspects besides real estate.
Yeah.
But for many people, it's real estate. And, that's kind of where it is for me.
Do what you're driven to do.
There you go.
That's exactly it. Yeah. You said it in there. And that actually reminds me, when you said that, of a book right now that I'm reading, called Crush It by Gary Vaynerchuk. Have you read that one?
I have not, but I have heard of it.
Yeah. So he talks about exactly what you said, doing, basically doing what you love, doing what you want to do. He talks about you can become the best. If you enjoy, let's say, knitting, you can create a brand around knitting and become this expert at knitting and make a ton of money. You can make six figures by knitting and being, this foremost expert in that. And there's, as silly as it sounds, there's tons of people out there that want to know more about it and would pay you for it. So that's exactly what he talks about. So, okay. So last thing, how do people reach out to you? How can they connect?
Well, they can get me to my website, which is synergetic.ig.com, and Synergetic is SYNERGETICIG.com, or they could just write to me at jeff@synergetic.ig.com. They can, find me on Bigger Pockets. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. Even though I don't go to those very often, I go to Bigger Pockets more than anything else.
Yeah.
Most part, but I'm out there.
Awesome. Well, Jeff, I appreciate you spending time with us and providing us value today. And I'm sure everybody listening to this agree with me with that as well. So with that said, have a great rest of the day, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you very much, Todd. It was my pleasure.
A special thanks to Jeff Greenberg. Appreciate him coming on the show and sharing his wisdom and insight. A few things I took from it: invest in yourself and make sure you're educated. I think that's really important. Not necessarily be overeducated, but make sure you're investing in yourself. Make sure you're reading. Make sure you're growing constantly. Make sure you're networking with people that are smarter than you, and you're getting learning from them. Providing value to them. So always make sure you're educating yourself and you're growing and you're learning. But again, take action. Make sure you take action. the next thing he says, and this is property specific and also business specific, I guess, really, is make sure you're properly funded and you're not over leveraged with that. So make sure you've got plenty of money. If it's not your money, it needs to be your investor's money. Of course, you need to take care of it just like it's your own money, but make sure you're properly funded, because that's when you're going to get in trouble. If you purchase an asset, business, or whatever it is, and money's tight, the second things start to go down, you're going to pinch those pennies, and then nothing good's going to come out of it. So, and the last thing is give and you will receive. And I think that's very wise and very true. Once you start giving, you're going to start receiving back as well. People will see that. People will want to be around you. And so it's a very positive thing to give. And of course, don't expect to receive necessarily. Give because you truly want to give, add value because you truly want to add value. But know in return, likely good things are going to happen with it. Now, if you come into it expecting it, I think that's going to be a different scenario. I don't think you're going to have as much success if you expect you give a little and want to take a lot. So again, thanks for Jeff for coming on the show. Appreciate him. Check him out at Synergetic IG.com. And I'll have that in the show notes as well. So thanks for listening. I'm Todd Dexhammer. I'm signing out. And before I do, make sure you go onto iTunes and give us a 5-star rating and review if you haven't done so already. Subscribe to our show. You can check us out on Facebook too. And so, go to our Facebook Pillars of Wealth Facebook page and be a part of that. So have a great day and make every day a Saturday. Are you ready to start investing in real estate today but don't know where to start? Sometimes investing can seem way too complicated, but it actually couldn't be any easier than with homeinvest.com. You know the co-founder and my friend Nate Armstrong. He appeared on episode 20, and if you haven't heard it, go back and listen to it, episode number 20. Home Invest is a company that allows you to invest in turnkey real estate. Their goal is to build powerful investment tools that make real estate investing accessible to everyone. They have contractors and property managers available for you with the click of your mouse. While other real estate agents can only offer a property, Home Invest brings you a full turnkey package that allows you to diversify your investments, earn passive income, and start building equity in properties. Their simple, intuitive design allows newcomers and experienced investors alike to hit the ground running and to be able to choose the properties when they want and where they want. View easy to understand charts and data to allow you to buy in only a few clicks or just a simple phone call. With Home Invest, you'll be building your portfolio as quickly or as slowly as you would like. And right now, Home Invest is giving our listeners, Pillar of Wealth Creation listeners, a free course on how to finally win in real estate investing. So go to homeinvest.com/pillars. That's homeinvest.com/pillars to claim your free course today.